Hello valued viewers, I hope you're all doing very well and welcome to what's going to be a really exciting new dynamic campaign, the Dune campaign, the battle for Arrakis, made by Bendy and Bypass with a little help from Tuxel with some visuals. Guys, please explain what we're going to do today.
Okay, hello everybody, it's Bypass here. I'll be doing most of the talking, I guess. Bendy will come in as necessary to fill in the gaps. So you've read the books, some of you have read the books, you've seen the movies, you've played the video games, various video games, and now you're going to play the DCS campaign. So we're putting all those assets, Dune assets together to make one big PvP campaign. That's the idea. So Dune the Battle for Arrakis, I'll direct you now to the main briefing sheet. So this is a PvP campaign, PvP and PvE. There are both elements on the Nevada map, which is the closest analog we have to the Arrakis, I guess. And we'll be going to the manual next. Okay, so I'll just go to page 2. Page 1 is just an old school image from an old video game. Page 2 is just the preface, the introduction to the campaign. Just to say briefly, to summarize that I was always a fan of war games, and so as you know from my previous PvP campaigns, Golan and Desert campaign and so on, I've been trying to make sort of the ultimate PvP campaign, but I just didn't have the necessary skills to implement some of the ideas I wanted to do. So I called on Bendy, and luckily for us, Bendy's a great Dune fan as well. So we put our knowledge together and working round the clock, kind of, to bring you this campaign. So I hope you enjoy it. Page 3 just gives you an idea of the sort of the playing area, the flying area we're going to be using. So this is Nevada map for those who don't know. A picture of Arrakeen, so the capital of Arrakis, which is the Las Vegas from the Nevada map. And just to give you an idea of the landscapes, so as you'll be flying, it'll be really desolate. This is quite a good matchup for Arrakis in some places. Okay, we have page 4 index, so we're going to be going through the different chapters. There's 12 chapters. The last 2 are work in progress. Just to go to chapter 1 on page 5, the background and overview. So the timeline of this, for those in the know, for the geeks out there, we're sort of doing an alternative timeline. It's taking place kind of roughly before the movies, but it's sort of a parallel universe. So you'll have to forgive us for that. But the idea is the Emperor Frederick V is tired of the constant battles between that are happening between the houses and the constant bickering, and so he sets out a decree that whoever manages to win control of the spice planet or Dune, Arrakis, will get to keep it and manage the spice trade on behalf of the Emperor, and so be rich. And so that's the premise for the campaign: is that House Atreides and House Harkonnen will be fighting for control of the planet. Looking at an overview of the factions on the next page, page 6. So the campaign contains 2 player-led factions, Red 4, which will be House Harkonnen, and Blue 4, House Atreides, and they'll be fighting for the control of Arrakis. We'll be also simulating a 3rd faction, the indigenous Fremen, that you all know, who will be a thorn in your side throughout. This 3rd faction will appear as your enemy coalition in game. So if I am red, when blues uncover Fremen, they will be red as well. They'll be on my side, and vice versa. I'll explain this again later on. This 3rd faction will appear as your enemy coalition in game, and may also be controlled by your enemy. You, proud pilots of noble military upbringing, will need to choose your allegiance, red or blue, and are encouraged to see your career through to its conclusion with your chosen side. Your names are on the sign sheet as of today, and your names will remain etched on the campaign roster. You're asked to add or remove your names as necessary. The member roles for all of you guys, so you should aim to split yourself as evenly as possible across the 2 teams, and you're encouraged to stay with one team if possible. If not possible, that's fine. There'll be 1 tactical commander on each team, which we will call Lord General, and this person will be chosen by each team before each mission, and will decide the overall tactical strategy on the mission itself. Members will be expected to have read this manual. The campaign makers, Bypass and Bendy, will not be providing all this information again every week, so please read the manual. If in doubt, you can watch maybe this video again, read the manual again, or if in doubt, ask your teammate. So the campaign then, the winning conditions. So the coalition that holds its own home province and the capital Arakin, as well as 70% of the map, so which is 14 provinces in total out of 20, wins the campaign. So you're required to ensure your territory is contiguous between your home sector and the capital Arakin as well. So that's the goal. Player, non-player factions, Chapter 2. So House Atreides Blue 4, just a brief introduction to House Atreides in this campaign. You start in the northeast of the map. The Atreides military shows a preference for high-tech and expensive aircraft over quantity or land-based SAMs, though some advanced versions of those do exist. It will take the Atreides Lord General a lot of planning to get the economy up to speed, up and humming, in order to support the excellent quality of their arms. For the Red 4 player, being caught out in the open by an equal or superior amount of advanced Blue 4 airplanes is not a fight they want to be in. So in brief, the equipment will be of high quality but expensive. So you'll need to manage your economy well in order to stay competitive. Now, House Harkonnen Red 4, next page, page 8. You start in the northwest on the opposite side of the map. You have advanced missile technology. Your weapons and aircraft are usually cheaper to manufacture, to purchase, and easily maintain, affordable, and you rely on quantity to overwhelm your opponents. Taking down a well-defended Harkonnen sector is a daunting task for the Blues. And then we have the Fremen, which will be either Red 4 or Blue 4. Again, a bit complicated, but it'll become clear a bit later on. So this is the simulated third faction. You will encounter them when trying to capture a neighboring sector or defending against an enemy incursion. You will also encounter Fremen sabotage patrols in your own territory. On your Lord General's tactical map, F10, they will appear as your enemy coalition, red or blue as the case may be. These local rebel forces will appear as your enemy invade sectors near their base. Just to explain, so if blues invade the sector that are next to them, they will activate Fremen rebels, which will be red and can be controlled by the red commander. So direct control is optional, however. They'll be able to go on the offensive on their own if you wish, or you can control them and move them around. You can ask them to hide and wait for the next mission, or you can try and gather them all together and make a massive attack on your enemy's base. You can control them as you see fit. The Fremen forces you encounter will be using an eclectic mix of technology, whatever they can capture from either Great House through contraband, bribes, or etc. They usually fight without regard for their own survival, so be on your guard. Okay, and then another member role, page 9, the Lord General. So before any of these missions in this campaign can go ahead, one player from each team will need to be designated as the Lord General of his house. That is, in-game, they will take on the tactical commander role. So this can be done by a vote, a rotation system, a volunteer, or dedicated person. That's okay. It's up to you to decide, but the mission cannot go ahead unless we have one of these tactical commanders. The Lord General, entrusted with running the Arrakis campaign by none other than the House Primarch himself, is tasked with the management of the warfare on the planet, the building up of resources through the harvesting of spice, organizing anti-Fremen patrols, the establishment of a logistical network, and offensive operations all fall under his purview. Acting as a tactical commander during ops, he'll be found in a vehicle, directing his troops directly from the battlefield, and there his word will be law. So the tactical commander will be inside a vehicle, moving around as needed to hide, to dodge, or to attack, and giving orders from the F10 map. Using your Lord General and the retinue as additional ground or anti-air support is possible. So the Lord General will be in one vehicle, a basic vehicle to start with, but this can be upgraded, and you can also purchase additional vehicles to make a long, sort of powerful retinue, and you can use this Lord General and his retinue as an attacking force. For example, it could give you a mobile ground radar and improved situational awareness, though you'll need to weigh up the risks and reward of such a strategy. The Lord General, Tactical Commander, is required to issue orders, of course, but is not to be confused with an AWACS. So, continuous bogey dope vector requests will not be entertained, but that'll be up to you to decide and to manage. This commander is also required, as I said, to remain in his vehicle at all times. Should he die, well, then the team will be without a leader for the rest of the mission, and they will just have to make the best of it. So a strategy of targeting your rival or enemy Lord General is certainly possible. So through his tactical battle map, the F10 map, he'll gain control of any rebel forces activated by his opposite number, For example, as I said, blue 4 invading a neutral sector will activate Fremen defenses, who will become red 4 until destroyed. And the opposite as well is true. The Lord General can make the local forces hide, attack, hold fire, whatever the commands are that you know from your combined arms operations. Additionally, in between mission days, the Lord General will be busy considering the strategic implications of what reinforcements to order through the salary, the income that you will gain from the spice harvesting. More on that a bit later on. So all in all, the Lord General role is a demanding one, but essential to the success of your house. So that'll be a key part of this campaign, is having a dedicated commander in this role. Lastly, another role, the Game Master. I'll be acting out as the Game Master. I'll represent the Spice Guild. The Spice Guild will purchase the spice and also drop units onto the map. I'll represent the Emperor and any other parties that are non-player controlled, as well as events, space galactic events such as solar winds, sandworm activity, spice yields. Any unusual events will be mentioned in the Galactic News Network box, so keep a close eye on these, as they can have an impact on your taskings and conditions on the planet. For example, for day one, next coming Monday, the big news of the day is that because of the uncertainty with operations on Arrakis, the price of spice has increased by over 10,000 solari. And so the price will be fluctuating. So that's something you might want to keep in mind for your harvesting operations. Speaking of the map, so page 11, here's an example. You can zoom in on the map if you want. You have the campaign map sectors and home sectors. So as you can see, red for Harkonnen start in the northwest and the blue for in the northeast, with Arrakeen roughly in the center of the map. So the Arrakis map is divided into 20 sectors, I mentioned, one of which is the capital, Arrakeen, located centrally, and two more are the house's home provinces at opposite ends. All these sectors are waiting to be conquered. Our technology does not permit us to fly outside of these 20 sectors. The harsh conditions will damage our aircraft, and prolonged exposure will mean death. So we'll have to stay within this known sector. Sectors will hold spice fields of varying quality levels, ripe for discovery and exploitation by your forces. Sectors also contain airfields that you'll be able to use to further your war aims, and your Lord General will need to invest wisely to make the most out of the opportunities that occur. Sectors have a name and number, as you can see on the map. The number is denoting their technology tier level, as well as the difficulty you will encounter in trying to capture the bases that are in this sector. So to capture a sector, to own a sector, you have to capture two bases, either one airfield and one FARP, or two FARPs. So that's the rule. You have to capture these from the Fremen forces in the sector to own that sector. And once you own the sector, you're able to harvest the spice. That's how it works. A tier 5, just an example, a tier 5 sector will have equivalent tech to your own tier 5. There'll be a technology tree down below. We'll have a look later. So you can face the equivalent anti-air, anti-ground defenses that your own coalition may have. So be aware of that. So for example, at the beginning, we start next to two tier 1 sectors, or one of them at least, and that could be a better target to attack first off while we're building up our economy, rather than go for a tier 2 sector, which would be sort of Cold War technology. We start off with warbirds as tier 1, tier 2 is Cold War, so that's something to keep in mind. Sectors, more on sectors now. Each of the 19 exploitable sectors, so we have 20 sectors including Arrakeen, contain 2 spice fields, as well as 2 air bases, as I mentioned. Both the airfields and the spice fields will vary in quality. So the higher level sectors will typically have better yielding spice fields, and so bigger defenses. It's not a match, perfect match. So you'll have to land your choppers and see what the cargo might be worth before picking up the cargo. To make use of a sector's resources, you'll need to have pacified allocation first, with the assets at your disposal. Sectors are ranked 1 to 5 on the map. Arrakeen is 6, super hard sort of level. And this signifies a tech difficulty level of the Fremen defenses that await any invasion, as well as a potential reward, i.e. the quality of spice that can be found there, as I mentioned earlier. Once the sector has been pacified, you can discover the spice fields. You won't know where the spice fields are until you destroy the air bases and you fly over the spice field. That's when you discover it. And then you can start harvesting the spice. The Fremen are hardy and rather sneaky enemy, however, and will try and sabotage spice harvesting wherever they can. So even after you pacify a sector, setting up defenses, patrols, purchasing tower defenses, and so on is recommended. Home sectors. So as I mentioned, you have a starting location, House Harkonnen in the northwest, House Atreides in the northeast. You start in a relatively well-developed sector. You have a spice refinery, a logistics base, farm facilities, though all with only basic technology tier 1. But you do have unlimited reserve of prop aircraft, warbirds, and light utility helo harvesters, as well as basic munitions. So to give you sort of a softer start, you have unlimited munitions and aircraft to make your start of your campaign. The first mission we're going to do, which will serve as a tutorial for the campaign, it will require you to pacify your starting sector, i.e. remove the Fremen threat from your starting sector, then discover and harvest the spies. That's your first mission. What you do from mission 2 onwards is up to you, or rather up to your Lord General. So here I have some FARP examples. This will be the blue FARP to start with, just a basic road base with a rearming station and a refinery. And the equivalent red one below, all self-explanatory. So you can develop your sectors. You start with some basic infrastructure, starting right your road base. When you do capture a new sector, there won't be any infrastructure there. You'll have to purchase, for example, war factories, which will enable you to purchase ground units. You'll have to purchase aircraft, and pretty much everything will have to be purchased. So you'll need to get your economy into gear pretty quick. Chapter 4, campaign flow. So the general campaign will run as follows. Step 1, a Lord General will be designated from among the brave warriors of that nation and asked to lead their house's troops into battle. All members are eligible for this except Bypass or Bendy, as we have a bit too much knowledge about the campaign. But I guess if no one else steps up, we'll have to, but it is preferable for someone else to do it. The same Lord General can be re-elected at each mission, or some people are naturally gifted, or you can just do a voting system or a rotation system. It'll be up to you to decide. From mission 2 onwards, the Lord General will be elected in member chat on Discord. I can use a poll, or you can just nominate somebody. Step 2, the Lord General will observe the number of pilots at their disposal on the sign sheet. They'll see what their preferred taskings are, and then start formulating a battle plan. You may choose a preferred aircraft and preferred tasking, but the Lord General may ask you to go, instead of cap, to go to air to ground, instead of air to ground to go to cap, for example. So please be understanding with that. The Lord General is the boss. So step 3, the 2 teams then fight out in the mission on the planet, take control of new territories, defend against Fremen, harvest spice, refine the spice at spice plants, and sell it off for a profit. All the total income will be on your screen in game in the menu, so you'll see how much money you're making. Similar to the warehousing campaign that Benny did in the past. The Game Master Bypass will send the Lord General a requisition form after the mission, and this form will it's a purchase form where you can see all the items and their prices, and the Lord General will have to decide what to purchase with the money they gain during the mission in time for the next mission. So you'll need to use the Solari, the currency, and to purchase upgrades, reinforcements, a better personal vehicle, you name it, you can buy it. Solari can be saved for bigger purchases, so you can carry over the amount if desired. But bear in mind that prices may fluctuate depending on the galactic market and planet conditions. So prices this month may not be the same as next month. Inflation is also a thing in so far into the future, it seems. Purchases will not be known to the other team. So both sides will have knowledge of each other's potential technology and order of battle. The requisition form is returned to me, and I will deliver the requested goods on planet as requested in time for the following mission. And then I will send out the briefing sheet as usual, and you can all enter your names again and so on. So we're down to page 16, sorry, and we have here a picture of a I-16, a Fremen scout ship in Fremen livery. All the airplanes in this campaign have custom-made liveries, thanks to Bendy. So we appreciate that, and you'll see it'll be quite easy to visually identify your enemy. Chapter 5, sectors. So great logistical trains are being established between the Harkonnen and or Atreides home systems and their new encampments on Dune in preparation of total war. The Fremen are not sitting idly by. Getting word of the Emperor's decree through unofficial channels, they are determined to prevent any foreign force from gaining a foothold on their planet and have been stockpiling defenses for some time. These defenses will mostly be set up around the 2 air bases of the sector, which you need to capture to claim the sector to your coalition, but not exclusively. So the enemy bases could be near an airfield or could be in the mountains. You'll have to explore and find them. Defenses and enemies uncovered in one mission may have moved by the time of the next mission. So if you find a, say, column of enemy ground forces, they may have moved when you try and find them again the next mission. All Fremen units are very dynamic owing to their local knowledge of the planet, so you may also encounter roving groups of Fremen in other areas, so be on your guard. Okay, so we can skip to the next one, sector capture procedures. So how does it work? So when any unit from your house, ground or air, enters a neutral sector, then this will cause a Fremen rebellion to emerge. This rebellion will be the opposite coalition, and its forces could be controlled by them. I think I mentioned this earlier. The Fremen forces you encounter will react violently to your presence and will be very aggressive. For these reasons, it's recommended you keep an eye on your position on the map. The sector borders will be visible, and also you will get a message in game when you're crossing a sector. So it's best to avoid activating the defenses in higher tier sectors next to your own, or they could start invading you. And for example, if you stray into a tier 3 sector where you still only tier 1 technology, you could have MiG-21s, for example, coming in to take you down. So be careful. As explained earlier, the pacification of a sector and the right to exploit it will only be possible once the 2 Fremen bases are captured and all enemy forces have been destroyed. To capture the base, as is the per the vanilla DCS experience, you'll need to land or drive ground units over the airbase. You'll need to have numerical superiority to claim it. So TLDR, once you destroy all enemy forces, including air ground units, and capture the bases, then the sector will belong to you. Then spice fields are discoverable and then exploitable. So the economy. So I mentioned earlier, each sector will have 2 spice fields, the quality of which will vary. The spice has been collected and placed in small container tanks. So we're using fuel tanks cargo as a proxy for spice and ready to be picked up, sling loaded, airlifted by your harvesters and brought to a nearby refinery. The weight of these fuel tanks will vary also. Heavier yields will lead to larger profits, but will be physically more difficult to lift and carry. So you'll have to consider that as well. The specifications of nearby cargo units can be found in your F10 menu once you land near a spice field. So the helo pilots will know this. Once you land and you check the cargo, you'll see the weight and the details of each cargo. So know your aircraft well, your max lift limits, your fuel quantities. It might be best to be conservative. Harvesters are expensive units, as you'll find out. Losing one can be a setback. So be careful. Once you select your cargo, you'll have to sling load, lift it to the refinery for processing. Once deposited into the refinery, it's basically a space outside a building. The income will appear in your in-game screen. There you'll also see the current exchange rate. So you may want to wait for a better time. If the price of spice is going up, for example, due to special conditions, you may want to wait. If the price is going down, you may want to quickly deposit the cargo. So the more Solari, the galactic currency you're able to gain, the happier your Lord General will be, and your coalition will now be able to invest in better technology, more ground air units, and so on. You'll need to keep in mind that although spice fields do regenerate, it's not a quick process. And should you clear a field, you may need to conquer a new sector, so new fields, in order to keep the spice flowing and your war economy booming. Denying spice fields to your enemy is of course possible. Cluster munitions can work. Destroying spice containers is not difficult, so consider guarding vital resources against air or ground attacks. Logistics. So this campaign will use CTLD and warehousing scripts, as well as the in-game cargo transportation system. So your in-game decisions will matter, and the careful husbanding of resources will play a part. So all your resources will be carried over into following missions. So apart from your initial FARP road base with its unlimited airframes and World War II era munitions, you will need to purchase everything in this campaign. You'll need to purchase all aircraft, vehicles, weapon systems, munitions, any other resources for your war machine for the rest of the campaign. It's also important to keep in mind that prices of goods, munitions can vary, as I mentioned. As indicated in the requisition form, which I'll show you an example of soon, some units will need to be picked up at your requested logistics space. So this will be the CTLD, for example. SAM systems will have to be picked up in crates and delivered to your preferred location, whereas tanks and ground units I will place myself according to your request. Airfields and FARPs will store your resources, but they can be treated by bombing. For example, a fuel tank system near an airfield can be bombed, and so your fuel will go down. So it's recommended you also invest in defenses as well. As some of you have seen with the CH-47 module, the dynamic cargo system has been implemented, and eventually, hopefully, this will apply to all choppers. So this could have a big role to play in this campaign. So page 20, chapter 8, the requisition form. This is just a work in progress example of the form the Lord General received between missions. So you'll see on the left side, you'll see all the items that can be purchased, the price per item, the locations that the Lord General would like them to be placed, the number requested, and then the total remaining money. So all fuel per tons will have to be purchased, logistic bases, and so on. Refineries that you might want to build a refinery next to a spice field, for example, for easier transportation. The prices here are just a work in progress, so don't. The prices will be different once we start playing. So you can see we have the tiers. So the salmon-colored boxes is what you have unlocked and what you can purchase right now. The grayed out stuff is for later once you upgrade. So if you can see, upgrading from tier 1 to tier 2 could cost you, say, 50,000, 100,000 Solari. So that's an investment you have to think about. Should you buy more aircraft, more tanks now, or should you save up your money and buy the unlock to the next tier? That's something to think about. Okay, page 21, just miscellanea, worms. Bendy, do you want to talk about worms for a bit? What's the plan for the worms?
Yes, thank you, Bypass. So, as Bypass has put here, sandworms are obviously a part of life on Dune. They're obviously a big part of the lore and stuff as well. So, sandworms, they won't be presenting themselves in the first mission, as the first mission is more of a training mission. But as you progress deeper into the depths of the desert, you may well start to encounter sandworms. You will obviously, whilst you're doing your harvesting operations, you will need to keep an eye out for worm sign. You may wish to develop some sort of buddy system so that helicopters which are harvesting spice are being looked out for. And if a worm is spotted, the likelihood is that it's going to be headed to protect the spice. So certainly look out for each other as far as that goes. Sandworms will essentially track the noisiest object it can find. So whichever's closest to it and sort of lowest to the ground, the worms will start to track you. So if you want to sort of break the lock from the worm, it's advised to gain some altitude, get some distance. However, destroying worms is a bit of a different matter. So obviously, if you do get too close, the worm will come up and they will destroy you. You will be given the opportunity to deploy thumpers as well. So this will appear as a radio menu option. Dropping a thumper can attract a worm if it's placed in a desirable location. It still needs to be the loudest closest thing to it for it to lock on. So if you've got another unit which is closer and low to the ground, then the thumper may not be effective. Thumpers will be costed, and again that may vary from mission to mission. But the idea is if you do manage to spot a worm in time and deploy a thumper in the right location, you could actually get the worm to consume that thumper, and it'll be satiated for the time being. So definitely something to watch out for. Again, not something to worry about for the first mission, as we're on the edges of the map. But certainly, as you progress further, it will be a real concern that you need to cater for.
Great, thank you, Bendy. That's very, very nicely explained. Page 22, just some other bits and bobs. Skins, liveries, these were made and they continue to be refined and updated with great care by Bendy. They're essential to the campaign and do need to be installed. So you are responsible for keeping up to date with that. As per Standing Order 12-176 of the Arrakis Campaign Rules of Engagement, any non-recognizable unknown force encountered on Dune is to be reported to your Lord General immediately and destroyed on site. So if you see any aircraft or not in standard livery, you have our permission to shoot it down on site. So it's up to everybody to stay up to date. In-game screen. So this is a situational awareness bar, as I call it, but Bendy was the creator here. In-game, you can see it will keep you informed of your tactical and strategic situation at all times when on the planet. You will see your current income, H Harkonnen A for Atreides. You'll see your sector. You'll see the current exchange rate for each gram of spice into Solari. You'll see the mission timer. So the mission has a 90-minute timer, which will activate once the first aircraft takes off. So to keep things nice and timely, at the end of the timer, the mission will stop, and any airplane not on the ground or parked at an airfield will be lost. So please keep that in mind too. The in-game map. So how will it work? The F10 map will be my aircraft only for regular players. So you can use your radio. You can use the F10 map to navigate as well. You'll see your aircraft there. The spectator role, the spectator views have been turned off. So since spectators have been turned off, there's an observer slot which has been reserved for Cap to do filming if he needs it. There'll be no other software or map modes used. The Minecraft only for regular players, and Tactical Commander for the Lord Generals. So Tactical Commander, for those who are not sure, they will have Fog of War. So if one of your units flies over, say, a red ground unit, the red ground unit will become visible on your F10 map, and you can give then orders to your unit to go and engage them. If you set up a radar, but then your Fog of War will just grow and you'll have better visibility, better situational awareness of the map. So keep that in mind as well. For comms, we'll be using SRS. How you assign your SRS frequencies, your airplane frequencies, will be up to your Lord General to decide. For example, we start with warbirds. Some Lord Generals may want to assign certain frequencies, certain flights, air to ground, air to air, rotary, and so on. If you would like me to tune any in-game radios, I can do that as well. So just please let me know before the next mission. That's not a problem. And that's it on the map. Just to finish up with this manual, we'll have a look at the tier lists, so the orders of battle. So I've mixed up the aircraft available in game between the two teams, but trying to keep a sort of consistent or different, say, a character to each side. So House Atreides tier list, we'll start with tier 1. We have our warbirds here, P-51 Spitfire, LA7 Hellcat Corsair. They haven't been released yet, but if they do, they'll be in here. Mosquitoes and the Huey, which is the level 1 tier 1 harvester. You can see tier 2, 3, 4, and 5. You get progressively more advanced, hopefully in this campaign, with early Cold War, mid Cold War, late Cold War, and then modern stuff at the end. As you can imagine, the prices will be going up as we go along, and so the idea is that you get you win over better sectors as you get closer to the capital city in the center, and so as you get better sectors, you get more money, and that enables you to get more to purchase better vehicles and aircraft and so on. And we can see the opposite team, Harris Harkonnen, page 26. Tier 1 will be a lot of the German stuff with the P-47 thrown in for its air-to-ground capabilities, and there's a bit of a mix. NATO, non-NATO, French stuff in the next 2 years. It's trying to keep sort of a character to House Harkonnen as well, and equal capabilities between the teams. And okay, so that's the manual done. Does anyone want to ask me any questions on the manual before we jump back to the sheet?
I have some clarifications and additions, if you
yes,
will,
please.
So just on capturing, you did say that there are two criteria. One, you have to basically be in control of both of the bases, the FARP and the airbase, or both the FARPs, and that all of the enemy forces need to be destroyed. To be clear, it's just the Fremen enemy forces that need to be destroyed. So if there's any human enemy forces in that sector, you can still capture it. It's the Fremen forces that need to be destroyed for that. Just to go back on spice yield, just to be clear, there are 3 tiers of spice yield. There's low yield containers, medium yield containers, and high yield containers. Low yield is basically a 1-to-1 relationship. Mid yield is worth 1.5 times. So whatever the weight of the container is times the yield, that's how much you get for it. So the same weight container for low yield, you get 1.5 times the amount of credits for a mid yield, and you get twice the amount of credits for a high yield. So the high yield containers, if you can find them, really are worth getting. And as Bypass said, in any particular spice field, there will be a mix. So don't just go after the first container you see. There may be a high yield container somewhere in the spice field. If you can identify it, grab that. If you can't, then get a mid yield or a low yield if that's all that's available.
Yes, just to add to that, Bendy, sorry. So it's also incentive to unlock the higher tiers of technology, to unlock the MI8, for example, and the Chinook, which will give you much bigger lift capacity, so you can catch more spice.
Yeah. Spice field growth, as Bypass said, a spice field will grow proportional to its size. So if you deplete it down to a small size, it will really retard the growth on it. So don't over harvest a spice field unless you really need those last containers to satisfy your bank balance. SAM system deployment, it is a kind of variation on what you're used to with the CTRD. There are some I've made some changes to make it a bit fairer between the two sides. So there may be containers in there that you're not used to seeing, but what it means is it means that for the same tier, each side has the same number of containers to deploy. So it's fair. So you may end up deploying a Humvee or something which you're not used to doing, but you still need either 4 or the 3 containers, or however many containers are on that selection to actually deploy a SAM system. And then finally, for the liveries, if anyone does require a smaller file size version of liveries, please let me know, and I will facilitate that for you.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Bendy. Anyone else wants to ask for clarifications?
So I've got a couple of questions. Do we have any starting money, or is it 0? We just got 4 birds and unlimited munitions.
It's pretty much 0. So before you can start harvesting, remember you'll have to take down the defenses in your sector. So if someone were to step into a Huey and start flying towards a sort of known spice field, that wouldn't do anything because the spice is not there yet. You'll have to finish the enemy first. But you may want to time your offensive so that the Huey can arrive just as the enemy ground is taken out. That would work too.
Do you know roughly how many crates each spice node is going to produce? I know it will vary, but is there a upper and low limit, like per mission?
Dozens, a couple of dozen or 3 dozen, that kind of thing.
And that'll be per mission.
Well, it will vary, so I don't want to put a number on it. really depends. Also, as a game master, I need to see how much you're actually able to earn each time. So then I will be adjusting the prices throughout the campaign for that reason as well. So I want you to get some income each mission, obviously.
Cap.
Yep.
If I'm flying an aeroplane and I crash, do I just respawn infinitely, or is that me out?
Yeah. So for your starting location, you have unlimited airframes. But when you capture a future airbase, so for example, if you look at the map, you'll see the next door sector has an airfield. If you want to populate that airfield with airframes, you'll have to purchase them, and you can place them inside the airfield as we do with normal resources. Those will be limited, but you can always go back to your starting sector and jump into one of those unlimited warbirds if you want to. That's to give you a sort of a leg up at the start of the campaign. Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this will be important because you start on tier 1 warbird technology, you may need to capture a tier 2 Cold War technology sector nearby. So chances are you'll get shot down quite a bit trying to do that. But it could be fun.
Are there any Fremen aircraft, or is it just
Oh yes,
ground forces?
aircraft and ground forces.
Okay, are they likely to be the same tier that?
Roughly, they're slightly weaker, so you wouldn't be facing the top end of your technology, but sort of roughly average.
And those will be AI.
Yes, or AI, or controlled by your enemy Lord General, who can give them orders.
Yeah, but I mean, they won't have humans piloting them.
No,
It'll just be
no.
okay. And they'll spawn along with all the ground forces and air defenses, when we enter a sector.
Yes, that's right.
Yes. So as Bypass said, you don't just want to be wandering about the map willy-nilly. If you're going to go into a new sector, it should be planned, it should be coordinated. You should have, a few units going together to actually anticipate the response that you're going to get.
Enemy aircraft will target helicopters as well, so you probably want to provide escorts to your harvesters.
They're going to be air spawns, or will they take off from the air bases in each sector?
Now they'll be all air spawns. Now the spawn locations will vary, so in one mission they'll spawn from one location, they'll spawn from a different one in the next. So it won't be always easy to know where they're coming from.
And are they likely to transit through neutral sectors, and will that trigger those sectors?
No, it won't. No, they remain within the sector. So I want you guys to find them and take them down so you can start operating the sector. They won't be too hard to find. If you fly near them, they'll pop up on the F10 map with the Lord General, who can then direct you to them. But there'll be multiples, so I don't recommend you go lone wolf trying to take down. There could be 2 or 3 together or more. So you want to plan your patrols. But that's why I made the size of the sectors isn't too big, so it's possible to cover them in about 20 minutes with a warbird. So it's all pretty doable.
You said forces or Fremen forces can move between missions. Is there a rough distance on that? Is it they'll teleport to either side of the sector, or is it they'll just move
Well,
10 miles down the road?
they're Fremen, you see, blood. So yeah, they're
Okay, right, so
tricksy.
they could go anywhere.
Yeah, but they won't be spawning in right on your base, but they could try and attack on the base. They're not happy that you're around. So it's recommended the Lord General keep some cash for defenses. For example, purchasing tanks or APCs placed in your base just to prevent any sort of sabotage attacks by Fremen. And the Fremen ground forces, the infantry or RPG troops, will be controlled by your enemy Lord General, so they may try to sneak them around into your base. That can happen.
Are there any rules? Because obviously we can control the Fremen forces.
Yep.
If we hide a single RPG guy in some buildings that's impossible to see, I assume that's not allowed.
Oh, it's allowed. That's it. They're Fremen, you see, they're very tricky.
But I mean, that would prevent you from capturing the sector because there's one guy stuck in a building.
Oh no, the capture zones are never inside a building or near buildings. They're easy to see.
Okay.
But if you want to do that as a delaying tactic, that's totally fine.
Bean has a question.
Yeah, Bean.
So, do I understand if you sign up for a chopper in the mission as a harvester? I mean, that's you for the whole mission. But can you
Well, it
change
really
between
depends
missions?
on your Lord General. So your leader might ask you to, oh, we have an opportunity to capture a base here, and being please pick up some troops instead of the spies and head towards this capture zone. So the capture zones are all FARP in neutral coalition. So they'll appear on your F10 map. The Lord General will know where the capture zones are. So
Okay, but
you may, yeah.
just to clarify, so if I sign up as a
Mhm.
harvester, I can't sort of on the night change my mind and decide to fly a warbird.
Oh no, that's fine. This is
Okay.
just your preferred tasking, and then it'll be up to your leader to talk to you guys and to decide what the strategy is. Just
Okay.
to help out your leader in advance of the mission to start thinking ahead.
Okay, so
And
he could say even halfway through the mission, you swap now from harvester to warbird.
Yeah, and vice versa. You could say, oh, we've cleared all the enemy, so now please, everybody who can fly a helo, get as much money as you can before the end of the mission.
exactly,
Okay.
and for anyone that was around for the warehousing campaign, I mean, this has some similar dynamics, right? If all you're doing is flying around and shooting down the other guy and you're not actually harvesting any spice, you're not going to be able to progress very far. So you have to have helicopters harvesting the spice, and you have to protect them so they can get back to the base. That's very important. If everyone's doing cap, you're not actually going to be able to progress to the next tier.
Yes, ground pounding will be important as well. So I mentioned sort of the three prongs: one cap, one ground pounder, and one helo. That'll be the sort of the assignments. Okay, any other questions? I guess everyone's thinking about strategy now. Okay, then we can go cap. Then we can go back to the main briefing sheet just to wrap
Roger.
things up.
Done.
So campaign manual, we can scroll down here. You have a larger size map of the playing area. So if we just take a look at this for a minute, you can see I've indicated the air bases are all visually identifiable on the map and in-game as well. So this is where they are. So the Lord General will know where they are and can direct his forces to them. But you won't always know what you encounter there. But you'll know where they are. So you can see there's two air bases, two FARPs, so one airfield, one FARP in each sector. And those are the zones that you need to capture to claim that sector. Okay, that's all clear to everybody. Below that, you have the GNN or the Galactic News Network, which will keep you up to date with all the goings on in the universe, which may affect your life on planet. For example, if there's a conflict happening in other planets, there may be a shortage of certain munitions or ground units and so on. You have your day one objectives, which are to secure just your border. That's your starting goal. But once you do that, what you do afterwards is up to you. Have fun. And then below that, we have the sign-up sheet. So you can see we have sort of a preference towards blue or Atreides at this time, but we may need to balance this out a bit. But importantly, we don't have any Lord Generals, so we're going to need 2 Lord Generals, one from each team, before we can start the mission. So we have till Monday to decide.
I am very out of practice with warbirds, so for the first mission, I'm happy to go Lord General.
Okay, yeah. So you can then rotate, take turns. That's really up to you guys. And Reds will need a plucky volunteer as well in time for Monday. Okay. There's 2 more tabs on the briefing document. There's the Atreides tech tree if you want to have a look in more detail at what you can unlock in further tiers. So you may want to save up a lot of money, in which case you could just unlock 2 tiers in a row. If you want to do that, that's possible. Or just purchase a lot of units at your current tier. Munitions will have to be ammo packs, as I call them, will have to be purchased. So, for example, a done pack will be just 20 rocket pods and 10 bombs, for example. Tier 2 air-to-air missiles will be just AIM-9Bs 10 times. So a pack of 10, and that will be delivered to your airbase, your requested airbase, in time for the next mission. So everything will be itemized and purchasable. So that's going to be important. So when you take off with a full loadout and you just crash right afterwards, that could be bad for your team. And then we have the equivalent Harkonnen on the next tab. The prices will be delivered in the requisition form, which will be the form sent to the Lord General. So you won't see the prices here, but I mean, you can always talk to your Lord General if you want. But as I said, the prices will vary. Okay, that's so the campaign in a nutshell. So it's all a bit crazy. I don't think this has ever been done before, and you can see why it needs at least 2 people to do this. It's a lot to manage, but Bendy and I are looking forward to it. So hopefully you are too.